Are you in fashion? Did you see what she's wearing? Vuitton shoes. I'm Sonia Sly. My heels are killing me. But I was told I have a backstage pass.
You will need to get the right pass to get behind me, ma'am.
Like, I need to go.
Code red. We have a situation.
I'm taking you inside the fashion industry to discuss trends, the reality behind the glamour, and the highs and lows of a fast-paced industry that never stops. In the big wide world of fashion, there are those who follow trends and those who create them. But where do designers draw their inspiration from? As it turns out, it's anywhere and everywhere. And if you want to know what the future of fashion looks like, well, it pays to keep your eyes on emerging designers who work without boundaries. I headed along to this year's ID Dunedin Fashion Week to meet some designers so that you have the inside word. And that's the ocean, by the way, which informed the work of Sydney designer Talia Jimenez, and it's what lives in the ocean that caught her attention.
All of my collection started at the seafood markets in Sydney. So I kind of went and drew all of the seafoods, so like the prawns, the scampi, the fish heads.
Does that seem like quite a weird thing to do?
It was such a weird thing. Everyone was like, all the tourists were taking photos of me doing that because they thought it was just like such a strange thing to do. I guess I was just kind of drawn towards the kind of sliminess, and it is such like an Australian thing, but when you think of like Australiana prints, you think of like kind of more pretty stuff, and I really wanted to do something that was like a little bit different and sticky and kind of that human interaction with that environment as well. So not like beautiful underwater sea creatures, like once they're taken out and put in these big buckets, and I kind of loved it. So
I mean, the colours really jump out. So you've got the orange, is it hand printed? Or?
Yeah, so I hand print everything. So I do my sketches and I pop them on the computer and like rearrange into repeat prints. So they're all like full yardage repeat prints. And then I hand screen print everything. So everything's like a 2-layer or 3-layer screen print that I set up by hand.
Sounds quite intensive.
It is. It's so crazy. I've done so many big like 15-hour days in the print room. Like I love that hand process. Digital's kind of so easy to just like send off and get your fabric roll back.
What can you tell me about the actual aesthetic? I mean, I kind of look at it and I go, it's like, streetwear, you've got quite a few outerwear pieces. There's some kind of camouflage print as well.
Actually, so they're all crab bodies, if you look closely. Kind of abstract take on the camo print. Kind of went with a mixture of streetwear, but like a lot of influence from like fishing outfits. So there's like sandwich pocket zippers, like all waterproof and zip off and very utility. All of the hardware all comes from like fishing tackle shops, so it's all like your really heavy duty sailing stuff. So I kind of tried to bring all that in and looked at like old sailors like utility suits and tried to be like a bit functional in that way as well.
Okay, I mean it's nice to kind of bring that into a fashion context. Is this menswear or women's wear?
It's menswear. Right. That's been shot on a girl though. These pants that I'm wearing are the same pattern as this that I've literally just taken in at the waist. What I love about menswear is it then can be translated into women's wear, whereas the other way around is quite hard to do. I'm kind of like in my own style, I have very masculine like boxy shapes, and so if you start off with menswear then it can easily be turned into a unisex collection, which is what I kind of love about menswear. Also at the moment I'm with Bonds, so it's like an Australian underwear company who does amazing prints, so that's been like a really nice fit for me as like a straight out of uni assistant design position. But in the future I'd love to go study at Central St Martin's and really pursue prints and menswear and that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
India as an exchange. Yeah, we both went to India.
Meet Olivia Ball and Krista Maitland. They're designers with an environmentalist edge.
I went to China for 4 weeks and we looked at smaller local handcraft as well as like the big production, and like that kind of opened my eyes to how much stuff was out there, and I was like, I don't want to just contribute to this, like I want to do something different. When we were looking for inspiration, we were looking at upcycling, and there was so much ugly stuff out there, and like that put us off a lot, and we feel that a lot of other designers would probably feel the same way.
It's hard, And so that is a challenge to upcycle material and make it into something that's beautiful. Yeah.
Like my experience in India was exactly the same, it's that overwhelming, holy crap, we are just mass producing so much like unnecessary things, and it's like you actually firsthand get to see the effect that that's having on like the livelihood of all these people that are slaving away to keep up with like fast fashion's constant demand. And yeah, I guess that has definitely influenced like what we've done.
And what they've done is a little fishy, you could say.
Every single thing on the collection is waste. Like we were going through the uni scrap bins, we were like going through actual rubbish bins. All of these sequins were hand punched from soft drink cans.
You're kidding me.
Absolutely everything's waste. Like these weaves were chip bags, it's dairy milk chocolate.
Except you'd never know by looking at the collection.
And cheerleader pom-poms.
Like these here. We had a lot of old threads as well that we would cord into like thicker yarns and.
You mean just like bits and scrap pieces that people
just
would normally
so much
discard?
uni rubbish.
Rummaging through uni bins.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, and how disgusting was that process?
Well, a lot of the uni bins, like at fashion, it's people throwing away fabrics. Like we have separate bins with like discarded pieces.
It was like really important to both of us as environmentalists to like when we embarked on our graduate collection at the very start, we knew that, you know, we love colour, we love fun, we love this like bold aesthetic, but it's quite sad. The fashion industry is such a huge global polluter, and we wanted to, from the get-go, like tackle that and actually design for
like we wanted to create something new, but we didn't want to use new products because there's almost so much stuff out there already that we can utilise.
And then I was really intrigued as to what the Coke cans and things would look like reimagined in a garment. So how did you actually print out the tiny sequins?
It was a little hand-held metal tool, and it had different sized circles, and you'd screw them on the end, and then you'd get a mallet, and we'd cut the cans up, lay them out flat, and then you just punch. Then we got a little pin, and we'd pinhole the centre of each so that we could then go and embroider them. So it was a huge process. And
did you take turns doing that?
Yeah.
Was it the least fun part of the process?
Sometimes it was a nice break because you could do it mindlessly. You could listen to podcasts and just smash out sequins. But other times your hand would get sore.
Was it obvious that that's what you would turn them into? Like when you went scrounging for Coke cans and things, were you like, yeah, let's do sequins?
I think part of my initial textile experimentation was like I was looking at different rubbish left over from our consumption, and I was experimenting with different ways that I could do things, and the sequins was kind of like one of those happy experiments that came out of that, and then that was something that we continued to then use, and it was kind of like the whole collection was really like material responsive. So we'd source the materials and we'd source the bags, and then it was like, okay, so now what are we going to do with this, rather than designing what we wanted it to look like and then finding the stuff to fit that. It was like reverse.
The materials we sourced like defined what we made.
Did you have a picture or a theme in mind? I mean, it's almost like space agey.
Yeah, we've had the space association quite a lot.
You can totally imagine like Lady Gaga maybe rocking stuff.
That's what we want, and Miley Cyrus. Like, so when you're working with our maximalist aesthetics, like it's so open, you can literally do anything. Through our research, we were looking at maximalism, which is more is more.
Celebrating the beauty and over the top, and the Oscar Wilde quote, like, moderation is a fatal thing, nothing succeeds like excess.
We translated and we looked to nature for inspiration. So we were like, we'll put them together. And we somehow came across fish. Each outfit is inspired by a different fish.
This was like the batfish. It was kind of more flamboyant and girly, and the design was digital, and then the laser cutter would burn away the top layer of the fabric to get these like prints, which add to the whole personality of each design. So this originated from a shark, and then this is kind of like the edgy rebel with the fins.
You can tell by the colour.
But it doesn't look anything like a shark, not overtly.
Got the spikes at the fins at the back.
So it's subtle, but like...
Mandy, the mandarin fish, which is completely rainbow and colourful, and that was kind of the starting inspiration for that.
For you guys, as designers, what does the future of fashion look like to you?
This. Yeah, well, for us it does. I mean, it's not everyone's aesthetic, but we would love to continue creating these kind of garments.
I mean, they're not your everyday garments.
No, but like someone's going to want to wear it. If you look at stage wear and costume wear, they want something that is something different from the norm. All of these techniques, there's so much going on. If you wanted to, you could tone them down and create a more wearable garment.
Some fashion is art, some fashion is just clothing.
From the get-go, it's fashion as art, but
And
wear
people
it. And
think of fashion, they're like, oh, fashion means could you wear it every day? And it's like, you don't have to wear everything every day. Like, there's occasions where things are appropriate, and there's occasions where these aren't appropriate.
It's not be appropriate. Like maybe in the office, you wouldn't get away with.
But you'd certainly make a statement, if you wanted to.
Fashion is about having fun. So you never know. I might be game enough to walk into work one day with a sequined shark's fin on my back made from recycled soda cans. But in contrast, I meet Alessandro. He studied in Florence, and his collection is deeply personal. There's lots of white here and lots of detail with the layers and layers of bows. It actually makes his garments are abstract, and the pieces aren't immediately identifiable, which begs the question: how does this work?
I have to show you because
Okay.
yeah, it's hard to explain. My collection is inspired by my personal experience because I always work on my bad experience.
Your bad experience?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Bad memories or bad moments. For me, it's a way to grow up, try to transform bad memories in good things. And this time I chose to work on my relationship between me and my father when I was a child. Yeah, it was bad.
What was bad about it?
Our relationship in general, because I'm gay and I grew up in hard country, like small town.
So it's Italy, wasn't it?
Yeah, Naples. It was hard, but now it's fine. Because for me, the bow, it represents union. In this case, it's me and my father. So when you have to make a bow,
Like tying people together in a
yeah.
way. So, what was your name?
Anthony,
Cool, and whereabouts are you from?
Shanghai.
What's the theme behind the collection?
Inspiration from Buddhist clothing.
Oh, from Buddhist clothing.
Yeah.
Are you Buddhist yourself?
No.
No.
I just like this culture. Religious culture is most important in the Chinese history. I really like this history, so I made a clothing collection.
So you've got the carp fish on the back.
I think fashion is the first and comfortable is second. I think.
You think fashion comes
Yeah.
first and comfort comes second?
Yeah.
Especially coming from a place like China, it's known for, a place that designers send to mass produce their clothing. But for you as a young designer, what do you want the future of fashion to look like?
Clothes will be more simple, and I like classy.
Classy.
Yeah.
I've interned with both. I was at Cooper Street for a year and Alice McCall for about 6 months.
Designer Nima Vittles has been interning for Australian labels but took a completely different approach when designing her own collection. She took out the main prize at ID this year, and her use of fabrication immediately draws you in. It looks fragile, almost like it's made of paper.
Well, there is some paper in it. It's Tyvek, it's a polyester paper, it's machine washable, chemical resistant and very durable. So I also used silk organza and cotton organdy and bonded them certain ways. So a lot of it is actually stronger than it looks. My collection's fully digitally printed. I just use the same 3 fabrications the whole way through my collection of archetypal garments and the scraps that are left over when I have made them. So
And what are the archetypal garments?
I've got the shirt, the bomber, the biker, a blazer and a trench coat. The sculptural pieces are the scraps that were left over when I cut out the pieces for those garments. And even though they're archetypal garments, I did construct them in my own way, like cut and paste, collage them on 3D form and emphasise those details with top stitching.
Is there a layer of paint over the top of this
That's the
textile here?
Tyvek. So this kind of came by accident. There was an image that I took of peeling paint on Glebe Point Road in Sydney. I just dropped that in and into Illustrator and then ended up coming out with a laser etching file. And instead of etching, it actually kind of burnt and pulled apart in a lot of places. And then I ended up using that to bond through to this one's silk organza that's self-bonded. As it bonded and it pulled apart, I pulled a bit more of it apart and it just kind of broke away.
For some of these garments hanging on the clothes hangers,
Yeah.
I can't tell what the garment actually is.
So that is the scraps that are left over from the shirt. I kind of believe that whoever's wearing them could should inform how they go. And because they're sculptural pieces, they kind of are activated by the wearer and the body itself. I guess you could call them somewhere between dresses and accessories. The only one that I've kind of worn that you wear by itself is this one, which was originally the scrap left over from a coat.
What else were you kind of working with in terms of themes or the concept?
I was really fascinated and frustrated by the way people project themselves on social media and how it's not actually real to lived experience. So I ended up kind of taking photos of my
Especially
own...
on Instagram.
Yeah, especially on Instagram. So like, you know, certain people that used to be important in my life were no longer in my life, and they were just kind of, you know, projecting this lifestyle, and I was like, So I found myself obsessively taking photos of everything, and then I was cutting into them and collaging them and taking photos of that, and then it was my own interpretation when I got lost into the throes of making of how I started creating images, and those images ended up being how I created my prints. I also moved back and forth from working on a male body and a female body. Like I found working on a male body, I was able to work out the cut of the archetypal garments that I wanted.
And does it change the actual silhouette quite dramatically?
Guys' bodies are more like a canvas. On the female models, I feel like it looked more angsty and edgy. On the guys, it kind of looked a bit more ethereal and alien-like.
Designers now are looking to create those sort of gender fluid garments, aren't they? And it's about how do you make your connection to the garment personal to you as a wearer.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't think it's necessarily also how designers are doing that, but I also believe that it's how consumers are actually purchasing and consuming fashion now. Like, you know, everyone can buy whatever they want online and shop from either wardrobe. More and more as we have a discussion about what gender is and what sexuality is, I think it's actually more normalised for you to wear it how you want. In certain ways in fashion we're a little bit behind with what's happening. Like gendered collections, there will always be a market, but it might become more niche rather than mainstream.
The future of fashion lies in the hands and imaginations of this next generation of emerging designers. You've been listening to My Heels Are Killing Me. I'm Sonia Sly. To find out more or to listen again, head to our podcast page on the rnz.co.nz website.